Hello and welcome back to the show. I'm Tom Christiano. Well, tonight we have an outstanding panel of town leaders to talk primarily about Chelmsford issues. With me tonight we have Sam Chase. How are you, Sam?
I'm fine, Tom, and how are you?
Good. And Sam, this is your 20th appearance on the show.
And what do I get for that?
You've now made the gold list. Pete, you got this? You see, Sam is now one of the dozen people who've been on the show 20 or more times.
I'm
amazed.
amazed.
That. So
no cake?
Well, on the anniversary show, come back in a couple of weeks. We're going to have cake.
All right. Good,
on our 20th anniversary show. So it's averaging, obviously, one per year, right? Which isn't bad. One appearance per year.
I think that's fine.
And Sam, as everyone probably knows, is a former selectman in Chelmsford. He's the chairman of the Board of Assessors here in town. He's also a town meeting representative from Precinct 1.
That's right.
And probably served on tons of committees over the years in town, right?
Of some fashion or I've also spent 6 years on the finance committee.
6 years? That's right, yes. And were you ever chair of that?
For 5 years.
5 years? Oh my God.
Couldn't get rid of it.
Wow, and you're still working for the company, but you might be retiring soon. Right?
I still do work full time. I'm 68 years old and looking forward to at least going part-time at some point. I will get my first Social Security check next month.
Wow. All right, Sam. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
You really like working, it seems to me, or I don't know how you keep doing it.
No, my family likes the money.
Hey, how about a big laugh? Am I the only big laugh? Kathy's got a great laugh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I need your laugh on the show tonight, Kathy.
You can count on it.
All right. Well, also with me is my good friend Charlie Wojtas tonight. Charles?
I'm always fine, Tom.
Charles?
But you know what's bad about tonight? It's too nice outside. We should be outside raking leaves or something.
Raking leaves?
Yeah, 'cause that's what I was doing before I came here.
Oh.
That's work. And what's wrong with work, Sam?
No, it's fine.
It's fine.
Right.
I did my raking last weekend. I'm all done.
I'm not done yet.
Well, Charlie's also here on the list with 25 appearances as of tonight,
I
Charles.
never would have known.
One more than your sister, Pat
So that's
Wojtas.
like 1 year for each year I've been in office or something? Is that what
No,
you're saying?
well, for Sam, it's averaging one appearance per year.
Okay.
20 appearances over 20 years. Yours is averaging like 1.1, 1.15.
Aha!
Okay, well, we have that down.
Yeah.
1.1.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, Charles, that's great. And you're one ahead of your sister, Pat, now, as of
As long as
tonight.
I'm ahead of Pat, I'm happy.
Yeah. So Charles is, everyone may know that Charles is a member of the Zoning Board of Appeals here in town.
Yeah, full time now.
Full-time, which is
Yes.
great.
Congratulations,
Recently
Charlie.
appointed a
Good
full
night,
member
good
there.
appointment.
He loves it. He's doing a great job. And that's one of the
I
most
don't know if I'm
important.
doing a great job, but I do like it.
Yeah, I think you're doing a great job, Charles. And from everything you tell me, anyway, you say I'm doing a great job, so I believe
I
you.
don't say
no,
that.
I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. And Charles has been on the planning board for what, 9 years? or
9
something?
years. That was fun, but not as fun as ZBA.
Yeah. The ZBA is a very important board, I think. Other than the Selectmen and School
Only-
Committee and maybe the Finance Committee, right up there is one of the most important boards
The only
in
reason
town.
it's important is that 40B word, you know,
Yeah.
and that's why it's important, because you really have to say no to as many as you can.
Well, you have to follow the laws, but
Yeah, you follow the law too.
But
of
you
course.
end up having to say yes to
Once
most
in
of
a
them,
while.
right? Because
Right.
of the laws.
Right.
So you're doing a great job there. You're also doing a great job as a Precinct 9 town meeting representative. You moved to Precinct
Who's
9.
been telling you these stories?
Well, me. I'm just making them up for you, Charlie.
Thanks, Tom.
But
oh, yeah.
you're what was it? About 3 years ago, you moved to 280 Boston Road.
Yeah,
Precinct
3 or
9?
4. Yeah, I had
Nice,
to move out of
nice house over
North
there
Chelmsford.
with
Well,
your-
because the North Chelmsford, Williamsburg was starting to cave into the river.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
It
over-
wasn't a good place to live.
Yes, yeah. You're talking about Williamsburg, right?
Yes,
Yeah, Williamsburg.
Williamsburg.
People are going to believe you.
It's true.
So, Charles, are you still on the agricultural committee?
Yeah, we meet
Jeez,
there a
always
couple, 3
still?
times a year.
Yeah.
It's, we,
And Charles,
we try to make money on it, but we never can.
yeah. And Charles is a Chelmsford Citizen of the Year as of a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And so thanks a lot for all that you do, Charles, and everybody
No
on the
problem,
panel tonight.
No problem.
It's great to have you back in the show, Charles.
Thank you.
Thanks. And we have my good friend Jon Kurland with us again for the lucky 13th appearance
There
tonight,
you
John.
go.
What
My
do you think
mother's
about
lucky
13?
number.
That was my mother's lucky number.
All right, all right. And your son, Scott, is on my show periodically, and we do the movie and TV review show. He does a great job with his reviews. Oh, my God.
He knows a lot about movies.
He does. He's amazing. Font of knowledge there. And remember, you used to be on my Real Talk show with Scott sometimes, too.
I know. The students surpass the master. What can I tell you?
Well, he spends a lot of time studying it, right, and going to movies.
Oh, yeah.
And, oh, my God, he's amazing. I'd love to see him get a full-time critic's job, like at a major magazine or TV show or something like that.
Well, he's got his blog.
Yeah, which is great, yeah.
And thank you for putting it on Chelmsford Reps and Residents.
Thank you. And the Chelmsford Arts Group is also there as well, which is wonderful. So John, as everyone knows, is our new, not too new now, but a town moderator.
It's been a
What
year.
was it, about a year? Yeah,
That's
a year
right.
ago you were elected town moderator. And well, we'll talk about it later on in the show, how you liked it last night, first night of the spring town meeting of this year. John also is and Sam, both former selectmen here in
Right.
Chelmsford. And you're also a member of the Finance Committee for many years, also chairman for many years.
I was the chairman after Sam ran for Board of Selectmen. He finally got out of being chairman by getting elected as a selectman, and then I was sort of elected as the chairman by default.
I told the FinCom, I said, listen, if you want me off this committee, just say so, but don't force me to run for selectman. I thought that was a rather drastic move on their part just to get rid of me. But it worked.
And then you ran for selectman and won, and did a great job there. You all did. Both of you were selectmen. And John, you also were a town meeting representative for a long time, but then
That's right.
you couldn't be because you're a town moderator now, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, well, yeah, I think so. I mean, I've heard of towns where in a town where the moderator it's an open town meeting, I guess he could vote, but
open, yeah.
I don't think it's really my place, so.
No, not as a town moderator, I wouldn't think.
I wouldn't
but-
do that.
So we'll talk about how you think it went last night pretty soon, as soon as the
It went
introductions
long,
are over.
but other than that.
And any other committees you'd like to mention or anything?
Well, I mean, over time, I was on the CPA, Community Preservation,
Committee.
and I was liaison to a bunch of other things. But
Wonderful.
you know, so,
Yeah, keeping busy in town, right?
Well,
With every,
like to give back.
yes, I think we all do, right? Anybody like to take here? Like this? No, we like
I don't
to give
think
back.
anybody's offering anything.
Yeah.
You're the interviewer.
In 2 weeks, we got cake if you want to come back for cake. Thanks, John. And
Thank you.
we have my good friend Kathy Duffett with us tonight again for the 20th appearance, Kathy.
Wow.
So guess what? You made the gold panelist list.
I'm so excited.
There's now 12 people on this list, and Kathy Duffett and Sam. We never had two inductees in the same night before
Wow.
on the panel.
I'm thrilled. Thank you
And-
for being so generous and inviting
Oh,
me back.
My pleasure, Kathy. It's always fun to have you on the show. And you've been a town leader for many years now here in Chelmsford. You were on the school committee for how many years?
6
was it?
years.
6 years. Very busy with that.
Yeah.
And
I've been
town,
at town meeting for at least 10.
town meeting rep for at least 10 years.
And now I'm on the finance committee.
And now you're doing a great job in the finance committee.
Thank you. That's kind
I saw you, of course, sitting up in front last night.
Somehow I ended up in the center of the table. I think the plan is to arrive early so you get to be on the edge of the table, not in the center of the table.
Well, now there's a monitors in front of you.
Those are excellent.
And I couldn't get a
idea.
picture
You're
of
welcome.
That's really excellent.
Good idea.
Good. It was nice, except Sheila, though. I couldn't get a picture of her because she was behind the monitor all night. So, but what can you do? She
So
could-
I actually remember the first time I was on.
You do,
It was
huh?
when the school building project was started, and so you invited someone from the support group to, the people that were supporting that project on, and the person who was supposed to come couldn't come. So I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And I remember sitting here nervous,
my God,
anxious, but I remember that, and you were very gracious
Wow.
and kind.
And
so.
you've been done great all of those 20 times, and I love your laugh on the show, and you were courageous last night in speaking up, which we'll talk about later, about the Nashoba budget and
thank you.
everything. And because it's not easy to speak at town meeting, right, in front of all those people, and the town moderator, right here.
Yeah, I'm so.
He'll keep you on your
I'm
toes.
so evil
Yeah,
and
no.
intimidating.
No, he'll keep you on your toes, though, right? If you're not following
Well, he
the right topic
certainly,
or whatever,
moves the conversation
the
along.
moderator will move it
I
along.
try.
Yes, yep. Well, I thought we'd start the show first thing about the town election. If anybody has any comments, Well, we recently had a town election here. It wasn't too long ago here in Chelmsford, April 7th. And as you all know, George Dixon was reelected as a member of the Board of Selectmen. And Laura Merrill was newly elected to the Chelmsford Board of Selectmen. And unfortunately, Charlie's sister, Pat, lost her seat on the Board of Selectmen after serving for about 7 years.
I think it was
and,
6, yeah, 6 to
years,
7.
6 or 7. And also, Louis Marino did not make it. So there were 4 candidates running for the Board of Selectmen, 2 of them made it. So I just wonder if anybody had any comments about it, what you thought of the campaigns, the election, the results. Anybody have any comments about that?
I think it showed us one thing, that people want change, and they don't really care who they vote for. They just want change. And I guess they vote for George because George is always out there trying to help people. So that's why he's the exception.
I see, yeah.
And that's my take on it. And I asked Pat 3 times if she was running again, and she said no each time.
I see, yeah.
So we might not see her again.
About next year, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll see. But maybe she'll change her mind by next year.
Right.
We don't know, but thank you.
I think that Pat did an excellent job in all the debates. I mean, she was articulate, knowledgeable, and had a great presence. I think that, unfortunately, there's a smaller group that pay attention to the debates, and then a bigger, larger voting group that pay attention to issues like change or other campaign things. And I do think that Ms. Merrill ran an excellent campaign.
Yeah.
I mean, she was very focused on her message, and that resonated. And I think the message hit home.
Yes, I agree. Yeah, I agree.
Well, it's easy to hit home when you're saying that you want to reduce taxes.
Right.
It's harder to deliver on that message. And I think Pat, who I served with on the Board of Selectmen, and she was, initially she was a little more quiet than she became as chairman, but I really thought she was an extremely hard worker, and she was very dedicated to trying to make the town a better way. And she was being very honest that the Board of Selectmen are not the people who reduce your taxes. And people, whether they didn't vote for her because she wasn't going to promise something that she can't deliver on or not, I mean, that's just my take on it. And I do hope that she runs again.
Yeah, I told her to. Yeah.
And does she listen to you?
No.
Okay.
What
Then
about
tell
your-
her not to run.
What about your mother?
What about her?
What does she tell Pat to do?
My mother's 92. She doesn't tell anybody what to do, really. She's so polite. And I'm going to stick by those words.
I think she's a pretty strong presence.
Yes.
But I thought the voter turnout was good.
Yes.
Considering
It was
it's what 23.8%,
Yeah.
which is higher than we normally have.
For a local, yes.
Where there were no ballot questions, but it's still disappointing that you can't get over 40 or 50% of the eligible voters to get out and vote, and I'm not sure how you actually solve that problem.
Yeah. Well, maybe it isn't a problem, in my opinion, because I don't want people to vote if they don't know what's going on. Then it doesn't do any good. If they just pick a name out of a hat, that isn't picking out the best candidates, if you know what I mean.
No,
I want people who follow.
I understand what you're saying, and that's the bigger question is how do you get the people, and let's face it, local government is the one area of government where your vote really can affect your pocketbook issues. When you're voting for your president, or you're voting for your congressman or senator, or often even your governor, it doesn't impact your pocketbook as much as, at least potentially, or at least your current standard of living in your town as the local election. So you would hope that people would get out and vote and say, okay, I'm in favor of this candidate because this candidate supports a particular issue that I'm in favor of, or I'm voting against someone because they're not. And,
Yes.
But I would like to see a lot more people voting. I would like more people to pay attention.
Pay attention. That's what I would like, and because there's plenty of outlets now to pay attention. The blogs that we have, the Chelmsford Reps and Residents group, and the TV shows like this, and Paul Cohen's TV show, and all kinds of informative. All the meetings now we have on the internet and on the television, the school committee meetings, selectmen meetings, finance committee meetings, planning board meetings. It's all there now, convenient for people if they want to pay attention.
Right.
But the question is, will they? But I appreciate that. And Sam, any thoughts about the selectmen race?
Well, actually, I I guess my thoughts are kind of a synthesis of what Charlie and Kathy and John have said. I think Charlie is absolutely right. I think people are at the point now, they may be frustrated with the perception of government and so forth, and they just want change. I think that's a factor. I also agree that Laura Merrill ran a very focused and coordinated campaign, and that certainly she had the visibility, whereas the two incumbents didn't seem to have that active a campaign, you know, in terms of visibility anyway. And I also agree with John in that the incumbent very often is at a disadvantage, because the incumbent knows how things are done. The outsider usually doesn't have a complete picture. Usually when somebody is elected to the school committee or the Board of Selectmen, and I know I went through this when I got on the FinCom and the Board of Selectmen, you have a perception. You think you know how things are done, you know? Even if you're paying attention, even if you go to all the meetings and you think you know. You get on the board and you are in usually for some very shocking revelations. Am I wrong?
No, you're
all right. And that's just the way it is. And I think the thing that is to follow up a little bit on what John said, the thing that is the most shocking to people who get elected to the Board of Selectmen is the realization, which they come to very quickly if they're paying attention. The selectmen do not have all the power in the world to do things and affect change. In Massachusetts, the municipalities are the creatures of the state legislature, and the municipalities do not make a move unless it is signed off at state level in some fashion or another. And unfortunately, many selectmen, because of the political nature of what they're doing, they like to give the impression that they are more powerful than they are and that they can do things that they can't do. And it is a wrong impression. I'm not saying they don't have any power. They do, okay? But it's quite a shock to find out that once you get in there, in a lot of cases, your hands are tied. Yes. And decisions you make are not those that can be taken unilaterally or just on your board. There are other dependencies as well, and that's just the way Massachusetts state government is organized. Yes. Same thing with the schools.
Yeah.
You know? So I think, you know, we'll see. We've got a new person on the Board of Selectmen, and we'll see what happens with her as she goes through that process of being acclimated to reality.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and she got up and spoke at the microphone and with a proposed warrant article amendment last night about the budget, and it took a lot of courage, I think, for her to do it. You know, you could tell she wasn't used to it, and she did the best she could there. Her amendment failed, which we'll talk about later on in the show. But how about school committee? Most people are saying we had two excellent candidates this year. People I'm talking to anyway, in our last show, and everybody I talked to. We had Sal Napoli, who's the owner of the Sal Enterprises and the big companies and pizzas and real estate, et cetera. And we had Anita Tanini, who's a vice president of a current company now, but she had been vice president in finance and accounting for many companies. So everybody was saying, and I agree with them, that we had two very qualified candidates running for the one open seat on the school committee. And so Sal Napoli won that seat, and Anita came in second. It was close, a couple of hundred votes or something, but a lot of people are wishing that Anita runs next year. So basically, any thoughts about the school committee race and how it went and how the campaign went?
Well, I guess I don't want to be obtuse, maybe is the word, but maybe money does talk and maybe money does buy you an election. That's kind of a stretch.
I don't think Sal spent a fortune.
You don't think? I think he spent a fortune on signs.
He outspent Anita, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Much. I bet he spent Anita 5 to 1 on the signs.
Yeah, we'll see when the campaign.
Yeah, I'm going to check the finance report. I think it's the middle of next May that the final report's going to be due.
7th or 8th, 30 days
it's
after the election.
It's due 30 days after the election.
Yeah, so I'm going to go to the town clerk's office and just check.
Yeah, let's just check and see
the
if I'm
finances
right.
and things.
Okay.
I think you can run an excellent campaign and
without
not spend
money.
a tremendous amount of money.
Of course you can. Of course you can.
So I mean, I think she
And
did run a good campaign. I
She
think
did.
Sal ran an excellent
did.
campaign,
Yeah.
and I'm really happy that there was an actual campaign for school committee.
Yes, yeah.
Because this was obviously a unique year,
Yeah.
and I think it's an important role, the school committee, and so you should have two people running. And great for us that we had two good people.
When's
who
the
ran.
last time there was a contest there, Kathy? I can't remember.
When Jack Wang and Evelyn and
Janet.
Janet ran, that was a contested one. There were 3 for 2 spots.
Okay, all right. That was a while ago.
Right. So
Yeah.
so it's been a while, and sometimes when someone steps down, then there's a campaign. So when Sheila stepped down and I ran, there was a campaign. Chris Carahan and myself. And so I think when someone resigns or moves along, there's a campaign sometimes.
Yes, yeah.
But I'm very happy that there was a campaign, and I do hope Anita steps forward. But I don't think it was the money issue. I think Sal has lived in this town and grew up here, and
And coaches. He spent so
coaches
many hours coaching the students.
right. So I mean,
for
I
co-
think you got to give his
I know, I'm
service
saying
to the town and doing
any
his
one of
name.
them deserve
Name
it.
recognition might be better than saying money.
You
Name
think?
recognition.
Okay.
Name recognition.
We'll do that.
Yes, name recognition. I
Name
think makes a big
recognition.
difference.
I think
Okay.
so, yeah.
Thank you, Kathy.
Yeah.
But
I suspect that was actually the campaign that resulted in the higher voter turnout than
Oh,
we're
without a
accustomed
doubt.
to see.
yes,
Without a
without
doubt.
without a
Right.
doubt. Any thoughts on this side about the school race?
As Kathy said, 2 qualified candidates. I think it was a very, very tough choice. I mean, unless you were in either one's camp from day one, from a philosophical standpoint or something like that, I think the average voter who was really trying to make a decision had a very, very tough choice.
Yes.
Because either one of them, I think, would do a credible job.
Yes.
I was interested in Anita from the standpoint of just the situation that we found ourselves in.
Yeah.
No doubt in my mind that Sal will do a very good job. He'll do very well in the school committee. But I was very interested in her candidacy because I felt that at the time, the school department and the school committee both have credibility issues with the voters. And because the main issue is finance and financial control, I thought that having somebody on the committee with that exact, precise experience, which Sal does not lack, he's a businessman and a very successful one, but Anita is actually on a day-to-day basis working in a financial control role. And I thought that her bringing that direct skill set to the committee was something that I thought the town and the committee would benefit from in terms of restoring faith and credibility in the school department operations. And that's what I thought she brought to the table. Sal brings some of that, obviously, and he brings other things too. But
Yes.
I felt that was critical at this time.
Yes. And as everyone may know, Sal was elected also as the vice chairman
Yes, he
of the
was.
school committee already in his first year. Al Thomas, a wonderful person, who's going to be on my next show, by the way, our 20th anniversary show. We have all the chairmen.
He gets the cake.
He gets the cake. So Al Thomas is the new chairman. He'll be on the show. And so, why don't we go over the chairman? Matt Hansen, the new chairman of the Board of Selectmen, he'll be
Right.
here. Tom Gilroy, the new chairman of the Finance Committee, will be here. And the planning board, the chairperson is Mike Raisbeck.
Okay.
He will be here. So we got 4 great chairmen and a great town manager, and we're going to have a wonderful time.
What about the chairman of the ZBA?
Yeah.
He really hasn't been showing up lately, though, right, John? No.
Oh,
because of his wife, John
the
Blake.
acting
Isn't he still
chairman
the
is
chair?
Len Richards.
Oh, yeah, but
right,
the
real
chairman is John Blake.
Blake.
He
Correct.
hasn't been able to attend much
right.
lately.
Okay, you're excused.
Thank you.
Charlie, there's
What
only-
about the chairman of the Board of Assessors? I mean,
God,
you know.
nobody wants to hear
See,
it.
you
about
You
it.
know
weeks-
what?
2
I
weeks in a
don't. I
row?
don't want to hear it.
He doesn't want to hear it.
No, I don't want to hear
We're
it.
only teasing.
Joe Reddy has me on his show, and I bore everybody to death with how that's done. So,
Well, you can bore us if you want. Not that you would do that, but you want to talk about the assessor's office at all, or what's going on there?
Well, not particularly, but I will mention, and just a reminder, since you did bring it up, this is the year that we're going to start to do the visual inspections
Oh, that's right.
of people's property. So that will be starting probably sometime in the latter part of June.
Now, I noticed a man or two on Facebook or whatever complaining about that or something about them coming in the house. It happened at town meeting too. Remember last fall?
There's a very simple answer to that.
Yeah.
Don't let us in.
Good.
You don't. You are
They
not.
don't have to let
No, you do
them
not.
in?
You are not legally compelled to let the assessor in. However, if you do not, and your property is not inspected, it may affect your ability to file an appeal if you disagree with your assessment. All right.
Yeah.
But there is absolutely, if you do not, I'm not recommending this, but if you do not feel comfortable, don't let anybody tell you that there's some sort of law that requires that the assessor or his agent be in, because there isn't. You don't have to let them in.
Yeah. And personally, I have no problems at all. If the person's not afraid of cats, then he can come in the house. I have 3 cats.
That may be on. That may be on the questionnaire. I'll have to look. The other thing is that, and just in that same vein, since we're talking about it, some people have expressed to me the fact that they're uncomfortable that we're hiring people from outside the town to do this because we just don't have the horsepower in the assessor's office. So if you're not comfortable with a contractor coming in and performing that function, then call the assessor's office, talk to the chief assessor, Frank Green, or the assistant assessor, Kit Bianchi, and we'll arrange to have somebody from the office come out and
That's great.
you know.
Sam, I've been here almost 40 years now, and I don't remember this occurring in the past. Am I wrong about that?
No, you're probably not wrong, and unfortunately, it is a matter of state law. The state law says that once every 9 years, property should be physically inspected by the assessor's office, and most communities don't do it because they don't have the horsepower, and it's expensive if you have to subcontract it out, you know. But it should be done.
Was it included in our FY16 budget? It must have been, right?
Yes.
What line item was it? Or was it mentioned last night?
No.
Oh, it wasn't mentioned, but it was there.
It's in there, right.
Great. Well, thanks. That was great. I'm glad you mentioned that to remind it. And people are going to have badges, right? By the way, and when they come to the front door,
they'll have the appropriate credentials, and people should ask to see them
before they let anybody in, right?
Yes. Absolutely.
And they'll probably have a badge of some sort.
Can I ask a question, Tom? No, Sam, should I not mow the lawn before they come? No, seriously, what should you do and what shouldn't you do? Do you have
I can't imagine you not mowing your lawn. But
should I bake cookies so they say, oh,
well,
that
it's not like
kitchen is really used.
You know what they say in the real estate business. You should always have the smell of freshly baked bread wafting through the house. So maybe that's not a bad idea. Although that would potentially increase
right, we don't want that kind.
Yeah.
Actually, it's all cut and dried, and I don't think that's going to have any effect. They're going to come in and basically take measurements, and the purpose is to just make sure that what we have on file for your property is accurate, okay? A lot of times people do things, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong here. The most common, I'll tell you, it's interesting, the most common discrepancy we have is swimming pools. People have a pool, whether it's an above ground or an in-ground pool, and at some point they get tired of it, the kids go, or they don't want the maintenance, they get rid of the pool. They don't tell us. So we will show that they still have the pool, and then at some point people say, wait a minute, I'm being assessed for a pool which I don't have. They come in, they file an abatement, and we make the adjustment. So, that's really the primary reason why this is being done, is to make sure that our records are accurate.
Wonderful. Wonderful. That's great. So that'll happen this year, sometime during the warmer weather this year.
God willing, and the creek don't rise. Yes.
Yeah. Great. Wonderful. So. Well, we're taping the show on Tuesday, April 28th, 2015, and last night was the first night of our spring town meeting. So I wondered if we could ask our town moderator what you thought of the first night of town meeting, if there were any changes in procedures, if you talk a little about that tablet idea.
Sure. Well, and I think some people had some problems logging on to the Wi-Fi. So
I couldn't get it.
You couldn't get on?
No.
If anybody who's a town meeting rep sees this before Thursday, I would suggest you talk to Ted Luter, and he can probably help you log on. It should be easy, but we're trying something new because people have been complaining for a long time that they can't see the screens. I mean, it's a long haul, and the technology is not so refined that we can have, you know, essentially a movie screen where people can read fine print. Chelmsford Telemedia, thank you folks. We're kind enough to assist in setting up a Wi-Fi system, and now town meeting reps or people at home can log on and they can actually see whatever's on the screen. Other than votes, we can't do the votes, but at least what the warrant article is, or if there's amendments, the amendments are you know, put up on the screen. So that's a positive thing. We did have a slight glitch last night, and I couldn't see the screen that I normally look at right by my podium for the vote. So I couldn't see how many times Charlie voted no, for example, or
how many times did he
I'm
have?
known for that.
It's in red, Charlie.
Yes.
So from from a technical point of view, we're still working our way through, but there were a number of people who were able to log on at the senior center, and hopefully as we get more experience in doing this, it'll be easier for people to see what's going on, and that's really the name of the game, is for people to know what they're voting on.
Yeah. And I, as you know, I always sit near the front, so I have no problem seeing what's on the screen. And now we also
well, your binoculars don't hurt.
Right, yeah. And we now have 2 screens too, which is an improvement over the last few years. One of the big improvements that was made over the past year, I don't know if I'm sure you remember this. One year they tried putting a black background with white, and that I felt didn't work at all. And I wrote a recommendation about it too. I'm so glad we're going back to the white with the black ink. And so I find it clear, but I imagine in the back of the room, it's maybe harder for those people to see everything up on the screen. But any other comments generally before we get into the specific warrant articles about town meeting the first night?
The band was excellent, as
Oh,
always.
we had the
Yes, I did.
students right from
In,
the high school. They were excellent.
Right.
Yeah.
They were excellent. Star Spangled, banner. Or
Yes. Thank you, Matt Sexauer.
It was excellent, and I'm just going to put a shameless plug in that the band is going to Washington, D.C. to march in the 4th of July parade, and they're still trying to collect money to pay for the trip. So there is a GoFundMe thing going around to help support the CHS band so they can march in the Washington 4th of July parade.
So who do you talk to about that?
I think that there is a Friends of Music Facebook page, Chelmsford Friends of Music Facebook page that probably has the link of the GoFundMe page.
Kathy, you could also put it on the Chelmsford Reps and Residents group on Facebook. Please do that.
I will.
Because a lot of people might find it difficult to find it. So if you have the link there and a little summary what it's about, that would be fantastic.
Right.
And you could even do it every week or two, once a week. But we have that duck race coming up, the Rotary Club does, by the way, in the center of town. It looks like it's going to be May 9th. It looks like it's going to be a fun event. You're all aware of that, right?
Sure.
Goes right by my daughter's shop.
Yeah, right. Your daughter's in the center
Another
now.
plug.
Yeah, no, she's doing great in the center now, right?
How would you know?
I don't go there, but yeah, it's a hairdressing place, and it's called Cut to the Chase. And she was on my small business show, your wonderful daughter, and she did a great job. And so it's where Michael's Furniture used to be, where furniture upholstery, and she has a great shop there. So anyway, there's going to be a number of booths set up by different small business people, fundraising groups, nonprofit groups, and they're going to have a duck race where you could buy like 5 ducks for $20, and there's pretty good prizes too. So
Now you should let people know that it's not real ducks who are going to be racing.
Right. Yes,
They're not wearing the little things with numbers.
It's not
that
wait,
would
wait
be
for duck
something
race.
though. Yeah, there's little rubber duckies, I guess
Right.
you'd call it. So please you could let Al Thomas know if you have his phone number, email address, if you want to buy some tickets, or you could please join or check the Chelmsford Reps and Residents group, because I post that at least once a week. And now that we're getting closer to May 9th, I'll do it 3 more times before the event. So please join that group if you haven't, by the way. We try to let people know what's going on in town. Right, Charles?
Of course.
Yeah.
I remember last year there was a pretty good crowd.
Good.
and the weather wasn't that good either.
Yeah,
It was kind of chilly, as I recall.
I think there's better publicity this year,
Oh, yeah.
I think. And I think it's going to be a bigger event. I know a lot of people signed up for the booths, tables, and so I think I see the signs, even in front of Parker School here today. There's a nice cutout of the duck. So if you see that, that's May 9th in the morning till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 11 to 3, something like that. So anyway, why don't we talk about a few of the warrant articles that occurred last night. Last night, given it was the first night of the spring town meeting, it was a big night for the town's budgets. Not the town, the school department, Nashoba Tech primarily last night. So why don't we start with the school budget. That school department budget was proposed at $52.4 million, and it passed 125 yes to only 15 no. So any thoughts about that, or the discussions that occurred then, or how Frank Tiano did with the presentation, along with Frank Antonelli, and any comments about any of that?
Well, I guess didn't they keep it less than 2.5%?
The increase?
Yeah.
I think it was 3%.
Oh,
Charlie.
3.01.
A little over
a little
3.
bit too high. So,
Yeah.
but you have to fund the school, don't you?
Yeah.
I mean, you can't. What
One
do you
would
do?
hope.
Yeah, what do you do?
How many of
Kathy?
those 15 people voted no because they didn't think it was enough money?
Some of them,
That's
yeah.
right.
Like, yeah.
So it wasn't.
That's why Charlie voted no.
wasn't
No,
complete,
I
wasn't
voted
completely
yes,
a negative.
You voted yes on this one? All right, Charles.
Yeah,
Okay.
it wasn't complete. The
See, I couldn't
15
see the
votes were
screen,
not
Charlie.
completely negative.
Sure.
I
good
might have had to
excuse.
revive me if I saw that you voted yes. So
I think the big compliment has got to go to Mr. Antonelli. I mean, among other people, but what he has done since he arrived in a extremely serious situation has completely organized, made all the information easy to read, and established a great base point for going forward. I mean, it's just unbelievable how much work has been accomplished. So
Yeah.
kudos to him, and unfortunately, he's just temporary.
There was some talk, and maybe you know something about this, Kathy, recently about trying to retain him at least until a successor could be found. I know he announced his intention to stop at the end of the fiscal year,
Right.
but in fact, it may have even been Sal, I think, that might have said, let's see if we can get the guy to stay on another 3 or 4 months. Do you know
Right.
anything about
I
that?
actually don't know any about that. I have been in conversations before with him and said, I hope you could stay for as long as
Yeah.
possible. And he kept saying, oh, July 1, July 1. But that would be wonderful if he did stay on for the transition, because he's done a tremendous amount of work. And I feel like if you got that huge binder that is established, and they really actually did a zero-based budget this year. Wasn't just the talk of it, and the principals were involved. And if you got that book, I mean, it's impressive to be able to look and see everything. And even though it was a funny or somewhat interesting question about the water last night, it became apparent because you could see what they spend on everything. So it's great if you took the time to read through the book.
well, it's quite voluminous, and if you really want to go item by item, you can't do it at town meeting. You
Right.
can't sit and study the school budget or even the town budget at town meeting, which is why it's so helpful, that we have information online weeks ahead of town meeting, and so that people can, the town meeting reps in particular, but all people should have some interest in what's going on in the budgets for the school and for the town. And even if you're not a town meeting rep, you should call your town meeting rep and say, listen, I've been looking over the budget for the schools, or I've been looking over the town budget, and I've got a question about this. Why are we funding this? Why aren't we funding this more? Those are the types of things that it would be nice that people did that. I guess I'm just sort of a cockeyed optimist, am I?
Well, I don't
At
know
least I'm
about
half
being
right, huh?
cockeyed, but
Yeah.
but here's the question for all of us who are town meeting reps. How many times have you actually gotten a phone call from somebody in your precinct as a town meeting representative to actually ask? I mean, so say I've been in for 10 years, have I received 20 phone calls? That maybe I have, and maybe that's a combination of being on the school committee, whatever, but I would venture a guess that it's hardly ever.
I say once a year.
One
One call a
person.
year. Yeah.
One call a year.
Yeah.
Well, if you're talking about lobbying for things, right?
Or just
whatever.
calling up and asking a question. You're a town
Because-
meeting rep, or I want to lobby, or whatever.
Yeah, but rather than the phone calls, I get a fair number of emails. Not a huge amount, but especially as we're approaching town meeting.
You do get a
like
few
the
emails.
grinder pump issue, whatever, we're getting
Yeah.
a number
Right.
of them lately.
That's my experience too,
Yeah,
Tom.
so I like the emails.
I get maybe 10 to 12 emails within a 4 or a 5 week period just before a town meeting.
Yes, yeah.
I think I may have gotten 1 or 2 phone calls
Yep.
Right.
in 20 years, but
Yeah.
I do get the emails.
Me too, yes.
Yeah.
And I get back to everyone who writes to me
I
too,
do.
but
I
I
reply to the
personally
emails,
reply
yeah.
to them. And they always tend to get back to me too and say, thanks for getting back, because I'm not sure everybody gets back to them once they get an email. But I think it's wonderful that constituents, they have our email addresses for most of us
Right.
at the town website.
It's a great, I love getting the emails because it gives you a chance to get information to people. Just as an example, the whole issue about the old fire headquarters being torn down. A person in my precinct sent me an email and said, well, I don't think it's a good idea to tear the place down, and it was clear to me that the individual was expressing an opinion, which is perfectly fine, but the individual wasn't really aware of the background. So I said, okay, here is the engineering report that was done by the engineers. And I told the person, I said, I am not sending this to you to try to change your mind. I'm only sending it to you so that you will have the same information that the town meeting reps have when they vote on the issue. So all I said, here's the report, read it,
That's great,
Like
yes.
it, don't like it, believe it, disbelieve it, but there is the information. And and that person came back and said, gee, thank you very much and really appreciate it, and it looks like the issue really has been looked into. That was the person's concern, that it wasn't just a political discussion back and forth.
yes.
The individual was unaware that we had that kind of information available. So
Yes.
that's a good way to communicate with people, and I just, and to your point, I wish more people would do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times the information is there, they don't know where to go to get it,
Yes,
yeah. And you can help people with that.
Yes. Yeah, thank you, Sam,
Yeah.
I agree.
That's why Sam's known as the great communicator.
Hey, the new Ronald Reagan.
I wish I had his hair.
Well, if there's no other comments about the school department budget, which passed last night overwhelmingly, why don't we talk a little bit about what came up next was the Nashoba Tech budget, and that generated quite a bit of discussion. First, there was a nice presentation by the Nashoba Tech people and some of the Nashoba Tech representatives on the school committee from Chelmsford. We have 3 of them, and all 3 were there last night. And but up at the podium, Sam Poulter went up there, and the other gentleman,
Don Air.
Cotton Ears.
Don Ear, was up the podium, along with 2 representatives from Nashoba Tech. And we have somebody here on the show tonight who was a principal speaker on that, a member of the Finance Committee, but talking about why you voted against it in the Finance Committee, and also as a town meeting rep.
Right.
And because there were some legitimate concerns that people had about the budget, right? Do you want
Right.
to quickly summarize that?
I would just
What-
say that of the 8 sending districts, which is where they get their money, 4 were taking money from their own stabilization account to pay to balance their budget, as Chelmsford did $500,000. And all those communities expressed concerns to Nashoba that although they're happy that they have a stabilization account and they want them to support the stabilization account, could they consider this year not going with their established plan of $200,000 deposit to stabilization? And if they did that and they let that money flow through to E&D and offset the town's assessment, that would have meant $50,000 worth of savings for Chelmsford.
Yeah.
And so, Nashoba does have other, they do have a $3 million school choice balance. So they do have cash reserves. So it's not that I don't think they should have a stabilization account. It's that
And
in
they
this,
have one.
they have one.
And you might want to mention how much it is at the moment.
$655,000.
And it's one school of what, about 700
700
students?
people.
So, yeah.
So
Versus Chelmsford, it has about 5,000.
5,000.
Yeah, just.
So the idea is that you have cash reserves. Let's aggressively use those cash reserves in accordance with the state laws and guidelines, but in a way that could offset the taxpayer's burden. In this case, it would have cost Chelmsford less than $50,000 less. So that really is my point. And I just want to make out that I am consistent in that the Chelmsford Public School Department, I have been at tri-board meetings, and when they came to us, talking about their community ed account that has $1 million in it. And I said, you have to be aggressive in using that money appropriately to offset your budget expenses. And so this year they did charge more legitimate expenses to it. Plus, when they came to us as a finance committee for the review, on that list of, the $600,000 cuts was a music teacher at the CHIPS program. And I said, can't that be charged to the community ed program? That happens in that building. And sure enough, they came back and said yes. So they charged the money to that community ed. The person still has their job, and they still have music.
Yeah.
And then later, when for the final warrants, Paul came in, and there was something about asbestos removal in the various buildings. And there was a line item for asbestos removal in the Westlands. I said, I hate to bring up my favorite topic, but couldn't this money be taken out of the community ed reserve fund? And Paul said, well, I'll check. And sure enough, it was. So I just want to make the point that I'm consistent in that I feel that the taxpayer should not have to give extra if you have a cash reserve that can accurately be used and the students won't be harmed.
Yes.
And that's
yes.
my basic point of why I
Yes.
voted no. I wanted the $50K for Chelmsford.
Yes. And I agree with, I think, you have a good point. I voted with you, by the way.
You.
Because what I didn't kind of appreciate too much is some people went up to the microphone and made an implication that those who were like vote against the Nashoba budget didn't like Nashoba Tech for some reason or didn't want them to have a good education. And that wasn't the point at all. And I thought for you and Karen D. Donato and others who were presenting this kind of point of view, and Stratus Dukakis, it kind of criticized them unjustly, I felt. Because you are looking out for the best interest not only in Nashoba Tech students, but Chelmsford people and residents as well, as well as Karen D. Donato and Stratus Dukakis.
Right.
It has nothing to do with not appreciating the great school Nashoba Tech is and trying to give them everything you want. It's trying to be fiscally prudent so that all the money is spent as prudently as possible, not only in Nashoba Tech, but in our Chelmsford budget as well.
Right.
So thank you, Kathy, and everybody for being courageous to do that, because you faced, I felt, unjust criticism.
Well, that's very sweet.
And I don't mean to criticize anybody who said this.
Unjustly
but
criticized you.
Yeah.
But I will say this, that because it is multiple sending communities, and 4 of the communities were expressing the same thing, and they all went and they asked them at that budget subcommittee meeting, please consider this. And we're going to have to let people go. So this is where you're getting your source of revenue, and you're supposed to be a teamwork. And so I think that is the point. But if you want to study vocation, go to Nashoba. It's a great school, and you'll be happy there. Yeah. That's not the point. The point is I wanted the $50,000 back.
Yes, yeah. So, well, our time is zipping by. Did anybody else notice that? And we just started the show.
It's your show.
Yeah, we just started the show, but we discussed everything. It was very important what we've been discussing. Any other quick comments about the Nashoba Tech before we move on?
Just really quickly. Part of the problem is that our finance committee, going back to even when Sam was chairman and before probably, has demanded a lot of financial disclosure from Nashoba, which we never got, at least when you were on the finance committee, when I was on the finance committee. And the other towns were not demanding the same level of disclosure. And Nashoba, I think there was a little friction there, and I think that is what started what was referred to as the history between Chelmsford and Nashoba. It's not that we don't support the schools, but we just want the same type of financial transparency that we get from the other departments in town.
Yes.
And I think
it's really very simple. What they were not doing, and they may still not be doing it. You can confirm this. And John and I both pursued this rather vigorously. John more so than I did, and actually John was more successful at getting some compliance. A very simple request. show us your actuals for the prior concluded fiscal year. What is so hard about that?
They
The
won't
books,
do it.
the books were closed, and we're not talking about, I know there's some confusion because fiscal years start July 1st, but we're not talking about show us what you're doing in 15 before 16, because 15 isn't done yet. What we're saying is the prior year. Show us what you did in 14.
Yes.
It's almost a year later. Don't tell me those results are not finalized. They are, okay? And also, don't tell me that I can go up to the website and find it for myself.
But that is this year.
I may not know what I'm looking for.
I don't
Please-
want to add flames to the
Yeah,
fuel, but
please
this
give
year
it to
we
me,
asked the
Yes.
selectmen to send them a letter asking for that information, and they replied, the superintendent replied that they don't have to. Because
Yeah.
respectfully,
Well, we got the same. We
quote,
got the same
respectfully-
problem.
Quote, respectfully speaking, we are not a department of Chelmsford.
John
we don't have to
sent
follow
John
your
when John
bylaws.
was chairman, and I had just been elected to the board, and we'd been working on this issue. And John said, "I'm going to send a letter," and I said, "Yeah," and I'll send one right behind you from the selectmen. So that year they were hit twice.
Well, not only
Okay.
that, but we discovered that they hadn't been reporting their excess and
Right.
deficiency to the Department of Revenue for 5 years. And I brought that up at the breakfast that they had,
Right.
the budget breakfast. And basically, it was the only year that I can remember that the cities and towns voted down the Nashoba budget. And it saved Chelmsford, I think, about $12,000 or so, or but it, hey,
Hey,
$12,000
it's
is,
right.
Yes.
it's
Every
$12,000.
penny counts,
Right.
yes.
But I know that other communities are also now, Pepperell in particular I spoke to their finance people and their town director, and they're asking for actuals as well. So going forward,
Yeah.
going forward, it's a great school. If you want to have one of
Absolutely.
these things, go enjoy it. Our taxpayers are happy to support it. It's a great education, and it really doesn't have to be an argument, and nor should there be. And we just want to go forward with the facts.
Yes, and the background and the financial data that Sam and you all mentioning, it just seems to me common sense. I don't
Well,
know
it's
why
it's
people don't
available.
understand
That's
it.
the thing that I don't
Yeah,
understand. It's available.
Yeah,
Just
and we're
send
funding-
it.
So just so you
Send
know,
it.
this year I actually
Yeah.
went online. I called the DESC, got a copy of their end of year report, and then I did their budget to actual
Yeah.
myself. Here's
Yeah,
your budget. here's
I
the
remember.
actual.
I watched that meeting. I remember you doing that.
Well,
yes.
Right. So
So
it
hope-
can be done.
Yeah, so hopefully it will be done in the future, I hope, and we keep trying, I think.
Either way, it is a great school, and that's really what
Yeah.
the message should be.
By the way, they have a great lunch program too. I'm for people who want to go to their. It's Tuesday through Fridays, 11:30 to 1. Charlie and I go there a lot with Pam
Sometimes,
Armstrong. Sometimes we might be going there in a couple of weeks. Fridays is a buffet, and it's very reasonable. And so go there for lunch if you ever want to go to have a nice. You probably all have been there, right?
I'll tell
We've
you
been for
one
the
thing
breakfast.
by
I
way
don't
of
know if I'm-
background,
Oh, okay.
just to put a little bit of perspective on here. A lot of people probably are not aware. Judy Klimkowitz has been there forever. Okay, she walked into a hornet's nest. Okay, when she started as the superintendent of that school. It made what we just went through look like we were competent, okay? That's how bad it was over there from a business management perspective. There were people who actually were indicted and went to jail later on, and she straightened it out, okay? So, she is a very, very competent administrator. I just want to say that.
That's great.
I would agree with
Yeah,
that 1,000%.
and she's done, I think, a phenomenal job, and I think the school is as successful as it is in large measure because of her leadership and administration. It's just, as I said before, it's too bad that we just couldn't get some very basic information
Yes.
that should have been supplied really without asking.
Yes, and hopefully in the future
Right.
we'll be surprised. Well, how about if we quickly talk about the town budget, which was fairly significant. The town portion, not the school part, $59.9 million. I believe it passed 121 in favor and only 12 opposed. Any thoughts? Quick thoughts about the town budget?
I'm going to guess that all 12 opposed thought it was too much, not like the school department budget.
Yes, yeah, right.
Yeah. So.
Well, the interesting thing from my perspective was that last year, the town manager received a lot of criticism from certain quarters that the budget that was presented in the spring was not a balanced budget, which is really not an accurate statement, because as long as it's balanced by November, it's a balanced budget. So it doesn't have to be dollar for dollar balanced at the end of spring town meeting. So the town manager, to balance the budget in the eyes of the people who criticized him last year, he took $500,000 from stabilization so that he could fund OPEB the way that the town has sort of committed to funding it. And then he gets criticized for attacking the stabilization fund when he made it very clear, well, at the end of the year, I'm going to refund in the fall when we have all this excess money, I'm going to refund the money back into stabilization. And he gets criticized for that. And I just, he's damned if he does and he's damned if he doesn't. And it's unfortunate. I thought that there were some interesting arguments in favor of the budget, and it passed pretty resoundingly.
121 to 12, yeah, very resoundingly. Any other thoughts, quick thoughts about that before we get into the grinder pump issue?
That's it.
No? How'd you vote on it, Charlie?
I got a really bad headache and I went home early.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to.
That's okay.
I thought you might have
abstained.
Who's one of the you abstained, Kathy?
No, I voted
Oh,
yes.
I voted
No,
yes.
I didn't.
I was
vote.
making a joke that when he left.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
got a really bad headache. I can't go home.
Right.
And Sam, I think, probably voted yes, right, Sam?
Yes, and I thought it was very interesting. I asked a question which I found out later some people didn't understand, but others did. And Selectman Joyce answered the question very well. And my question was, the town manager suggested in his presentation that the budget was tight, and the selectmen apparently felt that everything was fine, except they felt that the OPEB funding request had some flexibility. In other words, they didn't have to really fund the full amount that he was asking for. And Bob Joyce got up and said, that's exactly right. This is a tight budget. I don't see any other area in this operating budget that can be cut. And I thought that was which is why I asked the question. Yep. Okay, I wanted him to, is what Mr. Cohen said, was it accurate, was it not accurate? And he got up and he answered the question and said, yes, that is accurate, yes. Okay? And I think that speaks very well to our budgeting process in general and the town manager's ability to try to understand what the level of services is that the town needs to have to satisfy its residents within the ability to afford. So I thought that was a very important statement that Bob Joyce made.
I just like the polling of the various boards to know their positions. I think that's good because I think there should be reasoning behind the votes.
Well, I always do that, you know that.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you. Well, our time is running up, but before we have a special town meeting coming up this Thursday about the grinder pump issue. John, I believe, does your home have one, I believe, John?
Yeah, I'm going to be recusing myself. Mike McCall is going to, again, serve as the temporary moderator for that one special Warrant article.
But could you very quickly let people know what it's about, that Warrant article?
Well, basically, it's to transfer money from the Sewer Enterprise Fund to fund the grinder pump maintenance program. The interesting thing is that the Sewer Fairness Alliance, who were the people behind the original getting the town to take it over, is saying, we don't like the way that the town is doing it, that the town is actually providing more service than we asked for. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be the interesting discussion.
Yes. And it's true because my next door neighbor has a grinder pump. He and the person next door, because they're down a little incline, so the grinder pump helps get things up the hill, you might say. And he said, Tom, they came and inspected they had 3 people over there. He said, this is ridiculous. They're not doing this efficiently. No wonder it's costing so much. So he was in agreement with the Sewer Fairness Alliance. Dave Foley, as the president, hopefully he will speak on Thursday. I think he will.
Sure he will.
And they don't want us, and fortunately, they don't want money wasted. And we shouldn't waste money because there'll be overruns in this budget, which is what has been occurring. Money's been spent too rapidly. I'm sorry, we have to end the show, but
that's fine.
But you understand what I'm saying, right?
Well, I hope so.
Yeah, okay, good.
We're in trouble if he doesn't.
Yeah, right. But anyway, that's going to come up Thursday, and hopefully Dave Foley, everybody will listen to what he has to say. Thanks a lot, Sam.
You're welcome.
For being here.
Nice to
and
be on the
congratulations to make the gold list.
The big 2-0.
The big 2-0, right. And
it was my age.
There you go.
And thank you, Jon Kurland, for being here.
Thank you. The
Again.
big 1-3.
The big 1-3, lucky 13. Thank you, Charlie Wojtas.
I learned a lot.
The big 25. Thank you, Kathy Duffett, and congratulations to be on the gold panelist list. with 20th appearance. Thank you for our wonderful camera crew, Karen and Azora and Larry, and our director, Pete Verdula. Ciao.